He was one of the most beloved children's authors of the 20th century, the mind behind magical worlds that defined childhood for millions. But before he wrote those famous stories, during the Second World War, Roald Dahl was a fighter pilot turned spy. Stationed in Washington, D.C., he worked for British intelligence, using his considerable charm to report on the political climate in America and help keep the Allied relationship strong. From revered icons turned secret agents to celebrated leaders with hidden families, some of history's most famous figures were masters of deception. And these aren't just little white lies, they are secrets so shocking they change how we see these people forever. When we think of historical figures, we usually get a single, clean story. One name, one face, one public legacy. We see the scientist, the movie star, the hero. But real lives are rarely that simple. People are messy. They hide things. They protect private relationships, bury scandals, and sometimes build entire second identities right under the public's nose. And the strangest part: the more famous the person, the more intense the spotlight, the easier it can be to hide something enormous in plain sight. The world sees the performance but misses what's happening backstage. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on 5 monumental figures who led shocking double lives. Some were motivated by love. Some by survival. Others by a hidden ambition the public never knew existed. These stories reveal that the historical figures we think we know were often living a second life, one that history took decades to uncover. Charles Lindbergh, the hidden families. Let's start with a name that was once a symbol of American heroism, Charles Lindbergh. In 1927, he became a global superstar as the first person to fly solo non-stop across the Atlantic. He was the Lone Eagle, an icon of courage and ingenuity. His marriage to the brilliant author Anne Morrow seemed like a storybook romance, despite the horrific tragedy of their son's kidnapping and murder. Publicly, Lindbergh was a family man and a towering, if controversial, public figure. But that was only one side of his life. For decades, Lindbergh maintained a completely separate existence across the ocean. Starting in 1957, the world-famous aviator began a secret affair with a German hat maker named Brigitte Hessheimer. This wasn't a fleeting romance. It was a parallel life that produced 3 children, Dyke, Astrid, and David. To them, their father wasn't the famous Charles Lindbergh, but a mysterious writer named Carew Kent who would visit a few times a year, his true identity a closely guarded secret. And the deception went even deeper. Lindbergh was also in long-term relationships with Brigitte's sister, Marietta, and with his German translator, a woman named Valeska. It's believed he fathered 2 children with each of them as well. He juggled these 3 secret families for years, writing letters just 10 days before his death in 1974, pleading with his mistresses to maintain the utmost secrecy. The truth only came out in the early 2000s, when his daughter Astrid went public and DNA tests confirmed Lindbergh as her father. It's a revelation that completely shatters the image of the stoic American hero. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a meticulously constructed double life that spanned continents and lasted for nearly 2 decades. Hedy Lamarr, the secret inventor. Next up is a woman the world thought it knew completely, Hedy Lamarr. During Hollywood's golden age, she was billed as the most beautiful woman in the world. She was the glamorous, exotic movie star of films like Algiers and Samson and Delilah. Her public identity was built entirely around her looks. She was a silver screen goddess, an object of fantasy. But behind that carefully crafted image was a brilliant mind that the world consistently overlooked. While the public saw a movie star, Hedy Lamarr was also a self-taught inventor with a passion for science. During World War II, concerned about the Nazi threat, she turned her mind to a critical military problem. Radio-controlled torpedoes were easily jammed by the enemy. Working with composer George Antheil, Lamarr co-developed a groundbreaking, secret communication system. The idea was ingenious, a radio guidance system that would hop between frequencies, making the signal impossible to track or jam. This technique is now known as frequency hopping spread spectrum. In August 1942, Lamarr received a patent for her invention. But when she offered it to the US Navy, she was dismissed. They essentially told the movie star she could do more for the war effort by selling war bonds. Her invention sat on a shelf, ignored for years. But the core concept she pioneered would later influence the development of modern wireless communication, from GPS to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Hedy Lamarr's double life wasn't about scandal, but about a hidden identity the world refused to see. The public was sold one version of her, while her true genius remained her own secret for decades. Coming up, we've got a scientist whose secrets were more mystical than you can imagine and a fashion icon with a deeply controversial past. If you're enjoying this look into the hidden corners of history, take a second to hit that subscribe button. The most shocking stories are always the ones they left out of the textbooks. Isaac Newton, the last magician. When you hear the name Isaac Newton, you think of pure, rational science. Gravity, calculus, the laws of motion. He's the father of modern physics, a figure who represents the triumph of logic. His public legacy is that of a man who saw the universe as a grand, predictable machine. But the private Newton was a far stranger figure. The man who laid the foundations for the scientific revolution dedicated enormous chunks of his life to subjects that seem like the polar opposite of science: alchemy and mystical theology. Newton wrote over 1 million words on alchemy, the ancient quest to turn base metals into gold and discover the philosopher's stone. This wasn't a casual hobby. For over 30 years, it was a profound obsession. In his private papers, we don't just see the physicist. We see a man trying to decode the Bible for hidden prophecies, calculating the date of the apocalypse, which he predicted wouldn't happen before 2060, and conducting endless, often dangerous alchemical experiments. In his time, the line between chemistry and alchemy was blurry, but Newton's interest went far beyond simple experimentation. He saw himself as part of a secret tradition, an heir to ancient wisdom. This doesn't make his scientific work any less brilliant. But it shatters the one-dimensional caricature of him as a purely rational scientist. Newton's secret life reveals a man caught between two worlds, the dawning age of enlightenment and the ancient world of magic. The public Newton gave us modern physics. The private Newton was, as economist John Maynard Keynes wrote, the last of the magicians. Coco Chanel, the collaborator Coco Chanel, was a revolutionary. She liberated women from the corset, redefined modern style, and built a fashion empire that remains a symbol of timeless elegance. Her public identity is that of the fiercely independent, creative woman who built a legacy from nothing. Her name is synonymous with Parisian chic. But beneath that glamour lies a dark secret life, particularly during the Nazi occupation of France in World War II. While she famously closed her fashion house, Chanel continued to live in luxury at the Hotel Ritz in Paris, which also served as a headquarters for high-ranking German officials. It was there she began a relationship with a German intelligence officer, Baron Hans Gunther von Dinklage. Her involvement, however, may have gone beyond just a love affair. According to intelligence files uncovered by historians, Chanel was registered as an agent for German intelligence, Agent F7124, with the codename Westminster. While the full extent of her activities is still debated, some evidence suggests she was involved in a plan known as Operation Model Hut, which aimed to use her pre-war connections to Winston Churchill to broker a separate peace. At the same time, she used Nazi Aryanization laws in an attempt to wrest control of her perfume business from her Jewish partners, the Wertheimer family. After the war, Chanel was briefly investigated but faced no real consequences, likely due to her powerful connections. She quietly moved to Switzerland before returning to Paris to resurrect her fashion house. Her story is a chilling reminder of how a celebrated public legacy can coexist with a history of dark moral compromises. Mata Hari, the scapegoat. If any name is synonymous with secret identity, it's Mata Hari. She's the classic femme fatale spy, the exotic dancer who used her beauty to pry military secrets from powerful men during World War I. Her legend is one of espionage and betrayal, culminating in her execution by a French firing squad. But the most shocking secret about Mata Hari may be that her entire identity as a master spy was largely a myth she helped create, and one her executioners were all too happy to use. She wasn't born Javanese royalty as she claimed. She was Margaretha Zell, a Dutch woman who fled a difficult marriage and reinvented herself in Paris as an exotic performer. Her persona was a fantasy she sold to a willing audience. During the war, her life as a courtesan with international connections put her on the radar of both French and German intelligence. She accepted money from a German diplomat, a fact that would later condemn her. However, modern historians argue that the evidence against her was incredibly flimsy, possibly fabricated by a French intelligence chief who needed a scapegoat for the army's devastating failures. The intercepted German messages that supposedly proved her guilt were part of a larger body of circumstantial evidence, much of which has been questioned or disputed by historians. She was likely more of an opportunist caught in a deadly game she didn't fully understand. But in a time of national panic, the story of the evil foreign dancer who betrayed France was far more useful than the complicated truth. Mata Hari was convicted in a trial that focused more on her immoral lifestyle than on any concrete proof of espionage. Her double life, in the end, was less about who she truly was, and more about who wartime paranoia needed her to be. So, from a beloved hero with a web of secret families to an inventor hidden behind a movie star's face, the official stories of history are rarely the full picture. Charles Lindbergh, the American icon, was living a life of profound deception. Hedy Lamarr, the screen siren, was a scientific visionary whose contributions were ignored. Isaac Newton, the ultimate rationalist, was privately immersed in a world of alchemy and magic. Coco Chanel, the queen of fashion, carried a dark past of Nazi collaboration. And Mata Hari, the legendary spy, may have been little more than a scapegoat, executed for a role she never truly played. These stories prove that people are rarely just one thing. History loves a clean narrative, the hero, the villain, the genius. But real life almost never works that way. The truth is always messier, more complicated, and infinitely more fascinating. Which of these secret identities surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And for more strange, smart, and true stories from history, make sure you hit like and subscribe.